YouTube, hello and welcome back. We are still looking through my Iron Viz build, and today we're going to focus on the human element of my story, focusing much more on the people, how I tell that story, as well as using animation to keep that audience of mine still engaged and interested with the work. So in the final, it was in part with this slide technique that I had used, was having this human element. So this has been a technique that's been used before. It's not the only one that thought of this about representing the world as 100 people. So I use this technique to try and humanize the data I was telling. So from my research, I've seen that educators are less interested in understanding how KPIs go up and down and more interested in the human impact of their work. Say that you've got that classroom in front of you, you want to see those people grow and develop and go on to bigger and better things. So this made it quite important that we talk about people during this visualization. My 100 people combined with the slide technique kind of help you understand what illiteracy is all about. So I try here first of all to take you back 20 years to 2002 because it was a different time. So I then posed a question to my audience straight away, was out of these 100 people, how many of them do you think can read and write? And asking these questions of your audience gets them to just think maybe for half a second, maybe like, I don't know, 1 or 2% maybe. But actually it's 13 over 100 people are going to be illiterate, which for my audience, which is going to be predominantly Western people we were presenting in America, going to feel quite a lot, like 1 in 10 of their friends or people they know is going to be illiterate. But here I was using animation to actually bring that audience attention to illiteracy and then using that to focus on for my next talking point. And then going on beyond that, uncoupling what illiteracy actually means and put it into like human words, of understanding that becomes quite a barrier on your life, that you have much more reduced opportunities and you're going to struggle much more in society and depend quite a lot on other people. So again, I'm using animation here to sort of bring the attention of what's going on. So here we split across from men and women to then try and make it a bit more relatable to members of my audience. So understanding that there is a gender gap with illiteracy and trying to explore that as well, because that gets people fired up. They're not going to be fired up so much by the numbers, but they get emotion when it sort of hits an emotion of like the injustice behind why women are so much more disadvantaged than men when it comes to education. And that's the thing that's going to get them to pay a bit more attention rather than just the numbers. It's the people behind the numbers that really gets them to focus. So partway through the story, we talk about what improved over 10 years. So we saw a small increase, 3 people moved up, but we'll still have the same gaps. But I then posed the question, well, what was the benefit of doing that? So I could then go on to explore individual stories. So in these cases, I wanted to dive a bit deeper into the data and bring out some insights that I had found. So I compared countries that had improved literacy versus a group of countries that hadn't improved literacy rates, and wanted to compare and see what the differences were. So in this technique, I found countries. I then looked up like a representative kind of name for, say, a woman in that country around that sort of time. What was a popular name? And then built this kind of persona for them, that they came out from this rural part of India, but they had been building schools in that area. Now has Tanvi here, now has the skills to bring money home to the family. And that then went on to boost India's economy. So putting a bit more of like these human stories in it that people could identify more with, rather than just say, hey, the economy boosted in India because they did this, but trying to make that audience feel close or part to the humans as they can. So these became my 3 KPIs in a sense of showing how much the world could change if you improve literacy rates in your country. So representing what that boost in economic value means, how much that means that people live longer, and how much that means about having more informed family choices, about the fertility rate coming down. And lastly, this human part was a central part to my visualization build, so this is why you also see these people never really leave the screen too much. They're always part of the visualization. They're here throughout. They animate around so you can like you paying attention to what's going on with these people. Here we have 3 individual stories to highlight what that impact is, get a bit more than just the shape file it is, and then bubbling up to this final piece later on of what would happen today, and you still see that these people are still part of the story, coming up to his main dashboard at the end. Okay, so let's have a look at how this animation is actually working in Tableau. So if I go download, top left, you will be able to download the Tableau workbook. Yep, to current version, or if you're using a previous version, that will download very quickly. So with this workbook, you can see on the right left here, there's a number of sheets being used. So sheet 1 is going to be our background slides, and also it's going to be our human people. Okay, so if we dive into the actual sheet that we're looking at, I can tell you that this is actually just a scatter plot. So these 100 people are laid out like different points if I was to do XY coordinates in a scatter plot. So you can see they've all got assigned a different row and different column. They also all have a different ID, which is important because then it allows me to track where they will be when I'm progressing this story. So for example, we follow ID 5 here, in this case, if I was to move down to 2, so I know that ID 5 is going to move from here to here, and that's just part of changing that parameter and moves on to the next part of the data set, and updates that position and lets that animation work. So you'll notice some additional colors here. So in a case, we've got only 2 colors used on screen, but actually 5 here in the color palette. You also see there's different range of sizes as well, and that's because we use size later on in the dashboard for here. So we need to change these size to, so you see the size will change here to 2 from what it was, which was 5. And how I've done this is I've included a lot of fake data points, so Tableau keeps the sizes accurate. So you'll see here that these colors have all been kept. So in the earlier part, say slide 1, different colors were here but never actually shown to the users straight away. So they were here, so they were all predetermined when I was building this out, and hidden here so I could keep that size distribution. That's about it for this video. If you've enjoyed this, stick around for the next one where we'll dive into this dashboard a bit further and understand some of the choices I made here for the final build. Bye!